Hello and welcome. We're with World Trade Organization Chief Economist Patrick Lowe, and we're here to discuss the 2013 WTO World Trade Report. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you, Keith.
The topic of the World Trade Report is trade in the future. Can you give me some idea what will be the factors that will have the greatest impact on trade in the future?
Well, it depends quite a lot on what time frame you take as to where you might place the emphasis. But there are a range of things that we've identified in the report as being probable candidates for determining the shape of things to come. I think among these are questions of demographics, questions of the changes that are taking place already very perceptibly in the patterns of supply and demand around the world, things like energy prices, questions of infrastructure, of investment. There are many of these factors which will play into the way things shape up and the role that trade plays in all that.
And what role will government policies play in shaping the way we trade?
I think government policies have always been and will always be really important elements in the equation. The thing about the policies is that they go both ways. It's not just that policies affect outcomes, outcomes affect policies as well. And so disentanglement is always a challenge. But I think the main points about policies in the longer term are to do with the environment in which policy is conducted. So that's about governance, that's about the rule of law. But after that, the nitty-gritty of policy, what kinds of trade policies are there? What kinds of investment policies are there? How much protection is there in the system? And those sorts of issues, how to manage the interface between non-tariff measures and public policy. All those things that we're familiar with and are used to thinking about will be very important, not just in the short term, but in the long term too. And there's also the point that the policy frame you set will impose a shadow on the future. So there's a great interdependency, a great temporal interdependency in terms of the shape of the policy frame that is designed by governments.
Another factor shaping policy is social concerns. How will social concerns like labor rights or environmental issues, food safety, product safety concerns, how do you envisage these issues impacting on trade in the years to come?
I think the concerns over these are becoming more and more intense, and the challenge of dealing with them is becoming more and more difficult. I think many people feel that governments have not done enough, and that if we don't get more effective policies in place to deal with these things, to ensure that a greater sense of inclusivity, to deal with inequality, to deal with difficulties over jobs, we are going to have a real difficulty in steering a course which will lead us to greater growth and prosperity over time. So I do think this is a very, very real challenge. And governments need to think harder about how to deal with it.
And how do you see the role of the World Trade Organization going forward as we deal with the ever more complex trading environment?
Yes, the world has got harder for the WTO in many ways. We can't compartmentalize the way we used to. I think perhaps the biggest challenge for the WTO in the immediate future is to deal with its negotiating agenda, the mandate that is out there. How should this be dealt with? You can't just say, goodbye agenda, we haven't been able to deal with you, let's move on. So the real challenge immediately is how to manage that. But we can't just stop there. We also have to worry about new things that are coming onto the horizon that we need to face, challenges. The whole environmental question, the whole question of green growth, the emergence of supply chain production as a major force in economic organization. How does the WTO manage that? So I think these are things that we are going to have to also deal with in the longer run. And then in a much broader sense, I think there's the question of what sort of institutional framework can we operate in? And that's not just about the WTO, it's about international governance more generally and all the interdependencies that we have to manage on the international scene. But for us in particular, how do we manage to build convergence in a very diverse reality?
Patrick Lowe, thank you very much. You can read the 2013 World Trade Report online on the WTO's website. Thanks to you for watching.